Man's Search for Meaning. Book by Viktor Frankl. Detailed Summary. Introduction. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is a seminal work that combines personal memoir with psychological theory. The book is divided into two parts. The first part recounts Frankl's harrowing experiences in Nazi concentration camps during World War II, while the second part introduces his psychotherapeutic method, logotherapy, which is based on the search for meaning as the primary human drive. Part 1. Experiences in a concentration camp. 1. Admission to the camps. Frankl's narrative begins with his capture and admission to the concentration camps. This section explores the psychological shock experienced by new prisoners as they were stripped of their identities and subjected to brutal treatment. Frankl describes the process of dehumanization and the initial coping mechanisms employed by prisoners to handle the overwhelming fear and uncertainty. The initial shock. Frankl details the initial shock that prisoners experienced upon entering the camps. This phase was characterized by a sense of disbelief and numbness as individuals were abruptly torn from their previous lives and thrust into an environment of extreme cruelty. The psychological impact of this sudden transition was profound, as prisoners struggled to comprehend their new reality. Dehumanization and loss of identity. One of the first steps in the dehumanization process was the stripping away of personal belongings, including clothes and possessions that held sentimental value. Prisoners were reduced to numbers, losing their names and identities. Frankl describes the emotional toll of this dehumanization, as well as the efforts some prisoners made to retain a sense of self through memories and inner values. Coping mechanisms. In the face of such overwhelming trauma, prisoners developed various coping mechanisms to survive. Some turned to denial, refusing to accept the reality of their situation, while others relied on hope and faith in a future beyond the camps. Frankl's own coping strategy involved focusing on his future goals, such as reuniting with his wife and continuing his work as a psychiatrist. 2. Daily life in the camps. The brutal routine. Daily life in the concentration camps was marked by a brutal routine designed to break the prisoners' spirits. Frankl describes the grueling labor, inadequate food, and constant threat of death. The monotonous and punishing nature of this routine was intended to erode the prisoners' will to live. Physical and psychological torment. The physical torment inflicted on prisoners included severe beatings, exposure to extreme weather conditions, and inadequate medical care. Frankl recounts instances of unimaginable cruelty and the physical suffering endured by himself and others. The psychological torment was equally devastating, as prisoners faced constant humiliation, fear, and uncertainty about their fate. Small acts of kindness. Despite the pervasive cruelty, small acts of kindness provided glimmers of hope. Frankl describes moments when prisoners shared their meager rations, offered words of encouragement, or engaged in acts of solidarity. These gestures, though seemingly insignificant, helped to maintain a sense of humanity and provided emotional sustenance. 3. The psychological phases. Frankl identifies 3 distinct psychological phases that prisoners went through: the initial shock, the subsequent apathy, and the reactions to liberation. Each phase revealed different aspects of the human psyche under extreme stress. Initial shock. The initial shock phase, as described earlier, was marked by a sense of disbelief and numbness. Prisoners struggled to process the sudden and drastic change in their circumstances. This phase often involved a form of psychological paralysis, where individuals found it difficult to think or act coherently. Subsequent apathy. As prisoners became accustomed to camp life, they entered a phase of apathy. This phase was characterized by emotional detachment and a blunting of feelings. Frankl explains that this apathy served as a defense mechanism, protecting prisoners from the constant psychological assault. However, it also led to a sense of resignation and hopelessness. Reactions to liberation. The final phase involved the reactions to liberation. For many prisoners, liberation brought a mix of joy, disbelief, and emotional numbness. Frankl describes the challenges of reintegration into society and the long-term psychological impact of their experiences. This phase often involved a period of adjustment, as former prisoners struggled to find meaning and purpose in their post-camp lives. 4. Loss of identity. The loss of identity was a profound and deeply distressing experience for prisoners. Frankl explores the psychological effects of being reduced to a number, the feelings of insignificance, and the ways in which some prisoners managed to retain their sense of self through inner strength and personal values. Reduction to numbers. Upon entering the camps, prisoners were assigned numbers and stripped of their names. This dehumanization process aimed to erase their identities and individuality. Frankl describes the emotional impact of this reduction, as prisoners grappled with the loss of their personal histories and sense of self. Feelings of insignificance. The dehumanizing conditions in the camps led to feelings of insignificance and worthlessness. Frankl explains how the constant humiliation and brutality eroded prisoners' self-esteem and sense of agency. This loss of identity was compounded by the overwhelming sense of helplessness and despair. Inner strength and personal values. Despite the efforts to dehumanize them, some prisoners managed to retain their sense of self through inner strength and personal values. Frankl recounts stories of individuals who maintained their dignity and moral integrity, even in the face of extreme adversity. These individuals found meaning through their commitment to personal values, relationships, and future goals. 5. Finding meaning. The search for meaning is the central theme of Frankl's memoir. He observed that those who found a purpose or meaning in their suffering were more resilient and better able to endure the hardships of camp life. Meaning through future goals. One way prisoners found meaning was by focusing on future goals. Frankl describes how thinking about reuniting with loved ones, completing unfinished work, or achieving personal aspirations provided a sense of purpose and hope. This future-oriented mindset helped prisoners to endure their present suffering. Meaning through relationships. Relationships with fellow prisoners also provided a source of meaning. Frankl recounts instances where bonds of friendship and solidarity helped individuals to survive. These relationships offered emotional support and a sense of belonging, reinforcing the importance of human connection. Meaning through suffering. Frankl emphasizes that meaning can be found even in suffering. He argues that suffering, when faced with the right attitude, can be a source of personal growth and inner strength. By finding meaning in their suffering, prisoners were able to maintain a sense of dignity and purpose. 6. Observations on human behavior. Frankl's observations on human behavior reveal the dual capacity for good and evil within people. He describes instances of both brutality and altruism, leading to his conclusion that the ultimate freedom is the ability to choose one's attitude in any situation. Capacity for evil. The camps exposed the darkest aspects of human nature. Frankl describes how some prisoners and guards exhibited extreme cruelty, driven by a desire for power or survival. These acts of brutality highlighted the potential for evil within individuals when placed in dehumanizing conditions. Capacity for good. Conversely, Frankl also observed acts of extraordinary kindness and self-sacrifice. Some prisoners risked their lives to help others, demonstrating the capacity for compassion and altruism. These acts of goodness provided hope and a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. The power of choice. Frankl concludes that the ultimate freedom lies in the ability to choose one's attitude, regardless of external circumstances. He argues that while individuals cannot always control their environment, they can control their responses. This power of choice is fundamental to finding meaning and maintaining one's humanity. 7. The role of love. Love played a crucial role in the survival of many prisoners. Frankl describes how thoughts of loved ones provided comfort and strength, reinforcing his belief in the transformative power of love. Emotional sustenance. Frankl often thought of his wife during his time in the camps. These thoughts provided him with emotional sustenance and a sense of purpose. He describes how the memory of love helped him to endure suffering and maintain hope. The ultimate goal. Frankl argues that love is the ultimate and highest goal to which man can aspire. He believes that love gives life meaning and purpose, transcending even the most harrowing circumstances. This belief in the power of love is central to his philosophy and therapeutic approach. 8. Humor as a coping mechanism. Interestingly, Frankl also highlights the role of humor as a coping mechanism. Even in the bleakest of circumstances, prisoners would find moments to laugh and share jokes. This helped them maintain a sense of humanity and provided a brief escape from their grim reality. Psychological relief. Humor provided psychological relief and a momentary escape from the harsh realities of camp life. Frankl describes how prisoners used humor to cope with their suffering, diffuse tension, and maintain a sense of normalcy. These moments of laughter helped to preserve their mental health and resilience. Maintaining humanity. Humor also played a role in maintaining humanity and dignity. By finding humor in their situation, prisoners were able to assert their individuality and resist the dehumanizing conditions. This ability to find lightness in darkness is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. 9. The liberation. The final phase described is the reaction to liberation. For many prisoners, liberation brought a mix of joy, disbelief, and emotional numbness. Frankl notes that this phase was marked by a range of emotions, including joy, disbelief, and bitterness. Many prisoners struggled to reintegrate into society after their traumatic experiences. Initial joy and disbelief. The initial reaction to liberation was often one of joy and disbelief. Prisoners found it difficult to comprehend their newfound freedom and the end of their suffering. Frankl describes the surreal experience of being liberated and the overwhelming emotions that accompanied it. Emotional numbness. Despite the joy, many prisoners experienced emotional numbness and a sense of detachment. The psychological impact of their prolonged suffering left them unable to fully process their emotions. This numbness was a defense mechanism, protecting them from the overwhelming reality of their experiences. Long-term psychological impact. The long-term psychological impact of liberation was significant. Many former prisoners struggled with feelings of guilt, depression, and a sense of meaninglessness. Frankl explores the challenges of reintegration and the importance of finding new sources of meaning and purpose in post-camp life. Part 2, Logotherapy in a nutshell. In the second part of the book, Frankl introduces his therapeutic method, logotherapy, which is centered on the search for meaning as the primary motivational force in human life. 1. The will to meaning. The primary human drive. Frankl argues that the primary human drive is not the pursuit of pleasure, as Freud suggested, or power, as Adler proposed, but the pursuit of meaning. He explains that the will to meaning is the fundamental motivation in human life, driving individuals to find purpose and fulfillment. Philosophical foundations. The philosophical foundations of the will to meaning are rooted in existentialism and humanism. Frankl draws on the ideas of philosophers such as Nietzsche and Kierkegaard, who emphasized the importance of meaning and personal responsibility. He integrates these philosophical concepts into his therapeutic approach. Implications for psychotherapy. The will to meaning has significant implications for psychotherapy. Frankl argues that many psychological issues stem from a lack of meaning and purpose. By helping individuals discover their unique meaning, logotherapy can address these existential problems and promote mental well-being. 2. Existential frustration. Definition and causes. Existential frustration occurs when an individual's pursuit of meaning is thwarted. This frustration can arise from various sources, such as a lack of meaningful goals, societal pressures, or existential crises. Frankl explains that existential frustration is a natural part of the human experience and can be a catalyst for growth. Psychological impact. The psychological impact of existential frustration can be profound. Individuals may experience feelings of emptiness, despair, and anxiety. Frankl argues that these feelings are not necessarily pathological but can be addressed through the search for meaning. Logotherapy's approach. Logotherapy addresses existential frustration by helping individuals identify and pursue meaningful goals. Frankl describes specific therapeutic techniques, such as existential analysis and meaning-centered interventions, to help clients overcome their frustration and find purpose. 3. Noogenic neuroses. Definition and characteristics. Noogenic neuroses are psychological issues that arise from existential problems rather than psychological or physical ones. These neuroses are characterized by feelings of meaninglessness, existential anxiety, and a lack of purpose. Distinction from psychogenic neuroses. Frankl distinguishes noogenic neuroses from psychogenic neuroses, which are rooted in psychological conflicts and trauma. He argues that traditional psychotherapeutic approaches may not be effective for noogenic neuroses, as they do not address the underlying existential issues. Therapeutic approach. Logotherapy offers a therapeutic approach tailored to noogenic neuroses. Frankl describes techniques such as meaning-centered interventions, existential analysis, and the exploration of personal values. These approaches help clients address their existential concerns and find meaning in their lives. 4. The existential vacuum. Definition and causes. The existential vacuum is a widespread phenomenon in modern society, characterized by feelings of emptiness, boredom, and lack of purpose. Frankl attributes this vacuum to the decline of traditional values, the rise of materialism, and the erosion of community. Manifestations. The existential vacuum can manifest in various ways, including depression, anxiety, and a sense of meaninglessness. Frankl explains that individuals may try to fill this vacuum with superficial activities, such as compulsive work, hedonistic pleasures, or destructive behaviors. Addressing the vacuum. Logotherapy offers strategies for addressing the existential vacuum. Frankl emphasizes the importance of finding meaningful activities, cultivating relationships, and pursuing personal goals. By filling the vacuum with purpose, individuals can achieve a sense of fulfillment and well-being. 5. The meaning of life. Dynamic and personal. Frankl argues that the meaning of life is dynamic and personal. It varies from person to person and can change over time. He emphasizes that meaning is not something to be discovered once and for all but must be continually sought and created. Personal responsibility. Finding meaning is a personal responsibility. Frankl believes that individuals must take an active role in discovering and fulfilling their unique purpose. This involves self-reflection, goal-setting, and commitment to personal values. Practical advice. Frankl offers practical advice for finding meaning in everyday life. He encourages individuals to engage in meaningful activities, cultivate relationships, and contribute to their communities. By living authentically and purposefully, individuals can achieve a sense of fulfillment. 6. The essence of existence. Taking responsibility. The essence of existence lies in taking responsibility for one's own life and actions. Frankl argues that individuals are responsible for creating their own meaning and must take ownership of their choices and behaviors. External circumstances versus internal response. While external circumstances can influence one's life, it is the internal response that ultimately determines one's ability to find meaning. Frankl emphasizes that individuals have the power to choose their attitudes and actions, regardless of their environment. Personal growth. Taking responsibility for one's life is essential for personal growth. Frankl believes that facing challenges and making purposeful choices leads to self-actualization and fulfillment. This process involves embracing one's freedom and taking ownership of one's destiny. 7. The supermeaning. Transcendent context. The concept of a supermeaning provides a transcendent context for individual life meanings. Frankl suggests that this broader purpose can offer a sense of ultimate meaning and fulfillment. Philosophical and spiritual dimensions. The supermeaning encompasses philosophical and spiritual dimensions. Frankl draws on existential and religious ideas to explore the nature of this higher purpose. He argues that individuals can find a sense of transcendence through faith, philosophy, or personal values. Practical implications. The supermeaning has practical implications for finding meaning in everyday life. Frankl encourages individuals to consider their lives within a broader context and to seek connections with something greater than themselves. This perspective can provide a sense of purpose and resilience. 8. Life's transitoriness. Embracing impermanence. Recognizing the transitory nature of life can enhance the search for meaning. Frankl encourages individuals to embrace life's impermanence and to make the most of every moment. Benefits of embracing impermanence. Embracing impermanence can lead to greater appreciation of life and a deeper sense of purpose. Frankl explains that recognizing the fleeting nature of existence can motivate individuals to live authentically and meaningfully. Practical advice. Frankl offers practical advice for embracing impermanence. He encourages individuals to focus on what truly matters, cultivate meaningful relationships, and engage in purposeful activities. By living with awareness of life's transitoriness, individuals can achieve a sense of fulfillment. 9. The psychodynamics of the mass neurosis. Societal level issues. Mass neuroses arise from existential frustrations on a societal level. Frankl examines the psychological dynamics of these phenomena and the role of logotherapy in addressing them. Contemporary societal issues. Frankl analyzes contemporary societal issues such as the rise of consumerism, the decline of traditional values, and the erosion of community. He argues that these trends contribute to widespread feelings of meaninglessness and existential anxiety. Potential solutions. Logotherapy offers potential solutions to societal-level issues. Frankl advocates for a renewed focus on meaning, values, and community. By addressing existential concerns at both individual and societal levels, logotherapy can promote mental well-being and social cohesion. 10. Logotherapy as a technique. Specific techniques. Logotherapy employs specific techniques to help individuals find meaning in their lives. Frankl describes methods such as paradoxical intention and dereflection, providing detailed examples of their application in therapy. Paradoxical intention. Paradoxical intention involves encouraging clients to confront their fears and anxieties head-on. By doing so, they can reduce the power of these fears and achieve greater psychological freedom. Frankl provides examples of how this technique can be applied in therapy. Dereflection. Dereflection involves redirecting clients' attention away from their problems and towards meaningful activities and goals. This technique helps individuals break free from obsessive thoughts and focus on what truly matters. Frankl describes the therapeutic process and its outcomes. Practical guidance. Frankl offers practical guidance for therapists and individuals seeking to apply logotherapy principles. He emphasizes the importance of a collaborative therapeutic relationship and the use of meaning-centered interventions. 11. The case for a tragic optimism. Definition and characteristics. Tragic optimism is the belief that one can remain optimistic despite life's inevitable suffering. Frankl argues that this outlook can lead to resilience, personal growth, and fulfillment. Psychological benefits. The psychological benefits of tragic optimism include increased resilience, greater emotional stability, and a deeper sense of purpose. Frankl explains how adopting this perspective can help individuals cope with adversity and find meaning in their experiences. Practical advice. Frankl offers practical advice for adopting a tragic optimism outlook. He encourages individuals to focus on the positives, find meaning in suffering, and maintain a hopeful attitude. By embracing tragic optimism, individuals can achieve a sense of fulfillment and well-being. Detailed case studies and practical applications. 1. Case study, Finding Meaning in Work. The Disillusioned Lawyer. Frankl provides several case studies to illustrate how individuals can find meaning in their work. One notable example is a disillusioned lawyer who found purpose through pro bono work. Psychological impact. The lawyer initially struggled with feelings of emptiness and burnout. Through logotherapy, he discovered a sense of purpose by using his skills to help others. This shift in focus led to increased job satisfaction and overall well-being. Practical application. Frankl's case study highlights the importance of aligning one's work with personal values and goals. He offers practical advice for individuals seeking to find meaning in their careers, such as identifying meaningful tasks, setting goals, and contributing to the greater good. 2. Case study, Overcoming Existential Anxiety. The Anxious Student. Another case study involves an anxious student who struggled with feelings of meaninglessness. Through logotherapy, the student learned to focus on personal values and goals, leading to a reduction in anxiety and increased sense of purpose. Therapeutic process. The therapeutic process involved exploring the student's values, setting meaningful goals, and using techniques such as paradoxical intention and dereflection. Frankl describes how these interventions helped the student overcome existential anxiety and find meaning. Practical application. Frankl offers practical advice for addressing existential anxiety, such as focusing on personal values, setting achievable goals, and practicing mindfulness. By adopting these strategies, individuals can reduce anxiety and find a sense of purpose. 3. Case study, coping with grief. The bereaved parent. Frankl shares a case study of a bereaved parent who struggled with profound grief after the loss of a child. Through logotherapy, the parent found meaning in the suffering and learned to cope with the loss. Therapeutic process. The therapeutic process involved exploring the parent's values, finding meaning in the relationship with the deceased child, and focusing on future goals. Frankl describes how these interventions helped the parent cope with grief and find a sense of purpose. Practical application. Frankl offers practical advice for coping with grief, such as finding meaning in the relationship with the deceased, focusing on future goals, and seeking support from loved ones. By adopting these strategies, individuals can navigate the grieving process and find a sense of purpose. 4. Case study, finding meaning in suffering. The terminally ill patient. Frankl provides a case study of a terminally ill patient who found meaning in his suffering through logotherapy. The patient learned to focus on the legacy he would leave behind and the impact he had on others. Therapeutic process. The therapeutic process involved exploring the patient's values, focusing on meaningful relationships, and setting goals related to legacy and impact. Frankl describes how these interventions helped the patient find meaning in his suffering and achieve a sense of fulfillment. Practical application. Frankl offers practical advice for finding meaning in suffering, such as focusing on the impact of one's actions, cultivating meaningful relationships, and setting goals related to legacy. By adopting these strategies, individuals can find purpose and resilience in the face of adversity. 5. Case study, addressing the existential vacuum. The disenchanted executive. Frankl shares a case study of a disenchanted executive who struggled with feelings of emptiness and boredom. Through logotherapy, the executive found meaning by engaging in volunteer work and pursuing personal goals. Therapeutic process. The therapeutic process involved exploring the executive's values, identifying meaningful activities, and setting goals related to personal and professional growth. Frankl describes how these interventions helped the executive overcome the existential vacuum and find a sense of purpose. Practical application. Frankl offers practical advice for addressing the existential vacuum, such as identifying meaningful activities, setting goals, and focusing on personal values. By adopting these strategies, individuals can overcome feelings of emptiness and find a sense of fulfillment. Conclusion. Man's search for meaning is a profound exploration of the human capacity for resilience and the importance of finding meaning in life. Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps and his development of logotherapy offer valuable insights into the human psyche and the pursuit of purpose. The book's enduring relevance and impact reflect its universal message of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of meaning.